Spring cleaning is finally here. The new update is now live and it's already changing how modding works in City Skylines 2. And since the itself is evolving, this is the perfect time to talk about something just as important: how to mod the smart way. Because modding is a huge opportunity. It can completely transform your game, new maps, new buildings, new features, even new ways to play. But if you are not careful, it can just as easily break your saves, slow down your system, or turn your game into a complete mess. So, in this video, we will go through what mods are actually for, what to watch out for before downloading, and I will give you 5+1 practical rules to help you avoid the most common mistakes. This is City Skylines Workshop. Let's get started. The point of mods is that they expand the possibilities of the base game. In the case of City Skylines 1, the modding community played an incredibly important role in the game's survival after all these years. New buildings, means of transport, maps, props, interface solutions, and complete gameplay modifications were created thanks to the community. In fact, many features that seem natural today originally started as mods. The developers also pay attention to what is in demand, and more popular mods ideas may eventually be included in the base game or in official updates. Therefore, mods not only complement the game, but in a sense also influence the direction of development. But it is important to distinguish between mods. Not all mods are equally risky, and not all mods are for everyone. In the case of City Skylines 1, mods were basically available via the Steam Workshop. In City Skylines 2, however, Paradox's own system, Paradox Mods, became the central interface. This has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantages is that the system can be more platform independent, meaning that it will not be tied to Steam in the long term. This could be especially important if the game later arrives on consoles. In addition, Paradox can handle mods because on its own rules, there is the possibility of creating playsets, and the entire mod management can be better integrated into the game itself. However, the switch has not been completely smooth so far. Many players have experienced slow loading, crashing mods, incomplete descriptions, or difficult handling. The Spring Cleaning update is trying to improve this. It promises faster, more transparent and stable mod management. But before we talk about that, let's see what mods you can encounter in City Skylines 2. In City Skylines 2, there are basically two major types of mods. The first group includes asset mods. These add new content to the game, such as maps, buildings, props, or vehicles. The second group includes code mods. These do not simply add new visual elements, but also interfere with the operation, rules, or interface of the game. There is a very important difference between the two. A map or building mod usually poses less risk. A code mod, on the other hand, is much more sensitive, especially after updates. If the game changes, a code mod can easily cause errors, crash with other mods, or even prevent the save from loading. Therefore, it is worth consciously deciding what you really need and what you download just out of curiosity. Map mods are among the most popular and safest types of mods, but here it does not matter what you choose. My first advice is always check when a given map was last updated. Just because a map is older doesn't mean it won't work, but it might not play nicely with newer updates, DLCs or building types. It can still load, but you might run into missing features, broken zones, or buildings that simply don't appear the way they should. The second is external connections. This one is crucial. A good map needs proper road, rail, water, and air connections, and don't overlook electricity import and export. Especially early on, that can make a big difference is how stable your city is financially. The third is climate. If the temperature keeps dropping below zero, be ready for long winters and plenty of snow. That can look great, but if you are recording or streaming snow, can actually hide details and make things harder to see. The fourth is buildable area. Not all maps are equally easy to build on. If the buildable area is below 40%, it means there is very little flat land. Therefore, you will have to deal with terrain much more, which can be fun but also more challenging. So, if you are just starting out, you might want something a bit more forgiving. And finally, don't just go by popularity. A popular map isn't always a good map. Take a minute to check the description, the images, when it was last updated, and most importantly, does it inspire you? Because if you load a map and immediately think, yes, I want to build there, then you have probably found a good one. Building mods are much more interesting, but here too it is worth being careful. In City Skylines 2, the selection of building mods is even smaller than in the first part, but you can already find useful and spectacular content. The first thing you should look at is how popular the given mod is and who made it. If a mod comes from a well-known, reliable creator, that is already a safer choice. It is not a guarantee, but it is a good sign. The second aspect is the number of dependencies. If downloading a building mod requires you to install several other mods, props, or add-ons, you should think about whether you really need it. The more dependencies a mod has, the greater the chance that something will break or be missing later. The third consideration is usefulness. I usually only download building mods that are truly missing from the base game. For example, a special tram stop, a church, historical building, or a useful building pack can add a lot to the city. But if a school, fire station, or average apartment building only minimally deviates from the base game, it may not be worth loading up your playset with it. The fourth consideration is the cleanliness of the menu system. Some mods can add a lot of new icons, categories, or items to the menu. This may sound good at first, but it can make building more confusing in the long run. If a mod causes more confusion than it adds value, it may not be worth keeping. And then we come to code mods. This is the area where you need to be most careful. Code mods don't just add new buildings or maps to the game, they also interfere with how it works. They can change the interface, building rules, search, road management, traffic, or even the logic of the base game. That's why they can be very useful, but that's also why they can be very dangerous. With code mods, it is especially important to check the description, update date, comments, dependencies, and whether the mod is compatible with the current game version. If a code mod doesn't have a normal description, has been updated a long time ago, has a suspicious image, or is getting a lot of complaints, don't download it. In my own experience, you should only use code mods that you really need. This could be a mod that helps with searching, a mod that helps with movement, or a tool that actually speeds up construction. But with everything else, it is worth asking yourself, do I really need this? Because after an update, code mods are almost always the first to cause problems. I had a very instructive case in City Skylines 2. Even before the Sunset Harbor expansion, there was a mod that allowed you to build trolleybuses. I downloaded it and built a city with a population of about 120,000. Then Sunset Harbor came out and with it trolleybuses were officially added to the game. But the old mod got stuck with it. The game could no longer properly interpret what the mod had previously provided and the city practically went to waste. That's why I say always think ahead with code mod. What a mod solves today may be officially added to the game in 6 months. And when that happens, an old mod can easily become a burden. That's why outdated, not updated, depreciated mods should definitely be avoided. To sum up, I can give you 5+1 good tips for modding. First of all, don't download too many mods at once. This is one of the most important rules. If you install 20 or 30 mods at once and then something breaks, it will be very difficult to find out what caused the error. It is worth progressing gradually. Download a few mods, try them out, see if they work stably, and only then move on. It is also worth keeping the number of mods in check. You don't need to download everything that seems interesting. The more mods you have in your playset, the greater the chance of crashes and the more you can load your computer. The second one is think 3 times about code mods. Code mods can have the most, but they also pose the greatest risk. An asset mod may not display well at most. On the other hand, a code mod can even stop the entire game from working. Therefore, only use code mods that you really need, that are regularly updated, and that the community also considers reliable. The third one is choose from proven creators. Always check who created the mod. If it's a well-known active creator with a large following, that is usually a better sign. If someone has made high-quality mods or official content before, you are more likely to get a stable and usable mod. This doesn't mean you should never download anything from an unknown creator, but it is much safer to start with a well-known name as a beginner. The fourth one is always make a save. Make a separate save of your city before you are modding, and make another one after you are modding. That way, if something goes wrong, you are not risking your only working save. You can always go back to a state where the problematic mod wasn't present. This is especially important for large cities, long series, or cities that you use in videos. And the final one is test constantly. Modding doesn't work by downloading everything and then never dealing with it again. Go through your playset from time to time. Delete anything that is outdated, buggy, unloved, or no longer useful. Test maps, buildings, props, and features. If something doesn't work, don't stick with it just because it seemed interesting once. A good mod list isn't long, but clean and stable. And +1 is don't delete mod packs. This is especially important. If a mod has props, add-ons, or dependencies, don't delete just one part of it. In City Skylines 1, you could sometimes get away with this. It happened that someone deleted a prop, but the building itself still works somehow. City Skylines 2, however, is much stricter about this. If a building or mod is missing a necessary element, the game can immediately report an error. In fact, you can even encounter problems when loading or at the splash screen. That's why you either use a mod as a complete package or not at all. If a mod requires too many dependencies, installs too many props, or makes the playset unnecessarily completed, I prefer not to use it. Let's see what does the Paradox Mod development log bring. One of the most important elements of the spring cleaning update is playset sharing. This means that you can share your own mod build with others. This can be especially useful for friend communities or content creators because you don't have to explain each mod to download one by one. The second important element is version control and the snapshot system. The shared playset does not change or live with each modification you make, but creates a snapshot of the current state. So if you change your own playset later, it will not automatically override the setting of others. The third new feature is that subscribers get more control. If someone subscribes to a playset, they are not automatically transferred to every new version. They can decide when to update. This is important because it reduces the chance of unexpected errors or crashes. The fourth innovation is copying playset. If someone wants to start from a shared playset but want to customize it to their own taste, they can simply copy it and further edit it as their own version. The fifth important area is faster in-game mod management. After the update, mod downloads do not hinder browsing and management as much. Downloads can run in the background while you can continue to search, subscribe or manage mods. In addition, up to multiply mods can be downloaded at once and the system queues them more intelligently. This can be especially useful after major updates when several mods receive new versions at the same time. The feedback during the download process is also improved, meaning that there are fewer situations where a mod seems to get stuck at 90%. And if there is a conflict or synchronization issue, the system will provide more information about what happened, making it easier to decide how to resolve it. Finally, the Paradox Mods website is also getting a more streamlined look. The endless scrolling has been replaced by a tabbed system, which promised a cleaner, more organized and easier to navigate experience. So this update isn't about new building or visuals, it's not about content, but about making the mod system itself more stable, faster and more usable. Overall, modding is a huge opportunity in City Skylines 2, but only if you use it consciously. Paradox mod system is clearly evolving in the direction of making modding more stable, transparent and reliable in the long run. This may mean less freedom than we were used to in the days of Steam Workshop, but in return it can give you more control and fewer unexpected bugs. Playsets, version control, background downloads and better conflict management all serve to make modding less of a lottery. But the most important thing is still up to you. What you download, how many mods you use at once, how much you monitor updates, do you make saves, and do you remove what no longer works in a timely manner? Because mods can not only add to the game but also ruin it. So, if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: mod smart. This way, City Skylines 2 will not just be a city building game, but will be exactly the experience you want it to be.